The Minnesota Timberwolves are facing a tense and uncertain moment as they prepare for their December 14th matchup against the Sacramento Kings. What was expected to be a competitive Western Conference clash has suddenly turned into a major concern for Wolves fans, with Anthony Edwards and 4 other players appearing on the injury report. The situation raises serious questions about Minnesota's short-term outlook, lineup stability, and ability to keep momentum alive during a critical stretch of the season. At the center of the worry, of course, is Anthony Edwards, the Timberwolves franchise star and emotional leader. Edwards, whose current contract value breaks down to approximately $2,461,463 per year, has been listed with an injury designation that immediately sent shockwaves through the fan base. Anytime Edwards' name appears on the injury report, it becomes headline news, not just because of his scoring ability, but because of how much the Timberwolves' identity revolves around him on both ends of the floor. Edwards has been the engine of Minnesota's offense this season, providing explosive scoring nights, clutch performances, and a fearless mentality that sets the tone for the entire roster. His athleticism, shot creation, and defensive intensity make him nearly irreplaceable. If Edwards is limited or unable to play against Sacramento, the Timberwolves will be forced to rethink their entire offensive approach, especially against a Kings team known for its pace and firepower. The concern isn't just whether Edwards plays, but how effective he would be if he does suit up. Even minor injuries can impact his explosiveness, lateral movement, and ability to attack the rim. For a player whose game relies heavily on speed and power, any physical limitation could dramatically alter his impact. Minnesota's medical staff will likely be cautious, but the timing couldn't be worse with the team battling through a demanding part of the schedule. Adding to the stress is the fact that Edwards isn't alone on the injury report. 4 other Timberwolves players are also listed, further complicating the rotation. While not all injuries carry the same level of severity, the cumulative effect can be devastating. Depth becomes an issue, chemistry is disrupted, and head coach Chris Finch is left juggling lineups rather than executing a consistent game plan. These injuries highlight a growing concern for Minnesota this season: durability. The Timberwolves entered the year with high expectations, particularly after building a roster designed to compete deep into the playoffs. However, frequent injury designations threaten to derail that vision. When multiple players are unavailable or limited, it places additional strain on healthy contributors, increasing the risk of further setbacks. Against the Kings, this could be especially problematic. Sacramento thrives on tempo, ball movement, and offensive efficiency. They force opponents to keep up, and any lack of cohesion or depth can quickly turn into a blowout. If Minnesota is missing key rotation players, or if Edwards is not at full strength, the Kings could exploit mismatches and fatigue early. One of the biggest questions heading into the game is who steps up if Edwards can't carry his usual workload. The Timberwolves will need increased production from their secondary scorers and playmakers. Ball movement, shot selection, and defensive communication will all need to be near perfect to compensate for any absences. This is the kind of game where role players must rise to the occasion, not just statistically, but emotionally. Defensively, Edwards' potential absence or limitation is just as concerning. His on-ball defense and ability to guard multiple positions often allow Minnesota to hide weaker defenders or switch more aggressively. Without him at full capacity, the Wolves may struggle to contain Sacramento's guards, opening the door to high-percentage shots and transition opportunities. There's also a psychological aspect to consider. When star players appear on the injury report, it can affect a team's confidence and rhythm. Players may press, overthink, or hesitate, especially if roles suddenly change. The Timberwolves must guard against letting uncertainty dictate their performance. Staying mentally locked in will be just as important as physical readiness. From a bigger picture standpoint, the Timberwolves must weigh short-term wins against long-term health. Rushing Edwards or any other injured player back too soon could have serious consequences later in the season. Minnesota's front office and coaching staff know that success in December means little if it compromises playoff readiness. Still, every game matters in a tightly packed Western Conference, making these decisions incredibly difficult. As tip-off approaches, fans will be watching injury updates closely, hoping for positive news regarding Edwards' status. Even a probable designation would offer some relief, though questions would remain about minutes restrictions and effectiveness. If he's ruled out entirely, expectations will shift dramatically, and Minnesota will need to embrace an underdog mentality. Ultimately, this injury report serves as a reminder of how fragile momentum can be in the NBA. One night you're riding high behind a superstar's brilliance. The next, you're scrambling to adjust due to health concerns. For the Timberwolves, the December 14th game against the Kings is about more than just a win or loss. It's a test of resilience, depth, and adaptability. Whether Anthony Edwards takes the floor or not, Minnesota will need to dig deep, stay disciplined, and play with urgency. The injury concerns are real, the stakes are high, and how the Timberwolves respond could shape the narrative of their season moving forward. If you want, I can make it more clickbait. Add YouTube-style hooks and outro. Rewrite it in a more dramatic or analytical tone. Adjust word count, 800 1200 plus. Just tell me.